Welcome to the 1 Hour Guide by Anil Nathu. We're taking a deep dive into ChatGPT prompts today. It's all about, mastering this AI tool, right? Like, think of us as your guides through this whole world of AI. We want to help you cut through all the noise and get to those aha moments that we all love.
And we've got an awesome roadmap for today. It's the ChatGPT Prompts, a comprehensive guide from AI Coach. It was just published yesterday, December 26, 2024.
This guide is seriously packed with insights. And you know what? It connects really well with what Anil Nathu talks about on the 1 Hour Guide, getting tangible results from AI, especially in a business setting. But before we get into all the specifics, let's back up a bit. How does ChatGPT actually work, like, at its core?
Well, you can think of ChatGPT as a prediction machine. It's been trained on a huge, massive amount of text data. And using that data, it predicts the next word in any given sequence.
So it's kind of like a supercharged version of that autocomplete feature we see on our phones, right? But instead of suggesting just one word, it can generate whole paragraphs, even entire conversations.
Exactly. It's all about recognizing those patterns in language. ChatGPT has learned to identify those patterns and use them to create text that's very, very human-like.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
But this is where things get really interesting, right? Because the guide is saying that how we talk to ChatGPT, how we actually craft our prompts, has a huge impact on the results that we get.
Absolutely. Think of it like you've got this brilliant, but maybe like slightly clueless assistant, right? They have all this knowledge, tons of it, but they need clear, specific instructions to know what to do with all that information.
So it's not just about asking any question. It's more about asking the right question in the right way.
You hit the nail on the head. And the guide gives us a great framework for doing exactly that. It's called CRAFT. And it breaks down this whole prompt engineering thing into 5 key elements.
I do love a good acronym. Okay, so let's break down TR key. What does the C stand for?
C stands for clarity. It's really the most important part of prompting. You got to make sure your prompts are crystal clear, avoiding any vagueness or anything that's ambiguous.
Can you give us an example? Like, what does a clear prompt look like?
Sure. Let's say you're interested in, I don't know, social media marketing. Instead of asking ChatGPT to just tell me about marketing, a clearer prompt would be like, list 5 effective social media marketing strategies for small businesses.
Or so.
See, that level of detail tells ChatGPT exactly what you're looking for.
That makes total sense. So instead of asking ChatGPT to write some generic blog post about, let's say, the future of work, we could ask it something like, write a blog post about the future of work, specifically focusing on the impact of automation on job creation.
Exactly. And the more specific you are, the more ChatGPT's response is going to be on point and give you those insights you're looking for.
This reminds me of something Anil Nathu talks about all the time on the 1 Hour Guide. Being intentional, especially when you're using these new technologies. It's not enough to just dabble. You really need to understand what you want to achieve.
That's a great connection, and it really applies to this whole prompt engineering thing. The more clear we are in our prompts, the more likely we are to get the results we want.
Okay, so we've talked about clarity. What about the R in CRT? What's that all about?
The R stands for role. This is where things get really interesting. By giving ChatGPT a specific role, we can tailor its responses even more. You can ask it to be like a marketing expert or a historian or a scientist, anything that fits the information you're looking for.
So we're not just asking ChatGPT to be a generic language model anymore. We're actually asking it to, step into a specific persona. And that then influences the style and content of its output.
Precisely. Like, imagine asking ChatGPT to write a blog post about travel. If you tell it, be a seasoned travel blogger, you'll probably get a way more interesting and descriptive piece than if you just said, write a blog post about travel.
Okay, I'm starting to see just how powerful this can be. Let's say I wanted ChatGPT to analyze the competition for my business. Could I say something like, be a market research analyst?
Absolutely. And by doing that, you're probably going to get an analysis that's based on real data and insights. It's like having your own team of experts ready to help you reach your goals.
That's incredible. All right, we've covered clarity and role. So what comes next in this Crit-Craft-Tie framework?
Well, the A stands for action. It's about being direct with ChatGPT, telling it what you actually want it to do. We do this by starting our prompts with a clear action verb, words like write, list, compare, explain. You get the idea.
So it's kind of like those old text-based adventure games where you would type in commands, like open door or take sword.
Yeah, exactly. It's about giving ChatGPT those specific commands to guide its actions. Instead of just throwing out some vague question, you're telling it exactly what you want it to produce.
So a good prompt might start with something like, Write a blog post about the benefits of remote work, or generate a list of 10 creative icebreaker questions for team meetings.
Exactly. That action verb sets the stage for what you want ChatGPT to do. And the more specific you are with that verb, the more focused and on point its output will be.
All right, so clarity, role, and action, we've got those down. What about the F in CRT? What does that stand for?
The F is for format. This is where we get to choose how we want the information presented. ChatGPT is pretty versatile. It can give you content as bullet points, tables, paragraphs, even poems.
It's like choosing the layout for a presentation, right? We
Mhm.
want that information delivered in a way that's easy to grasp and understand.
Exactly. If you want a quick overview, ask for bullet points. If you need a detailed explanation, ask for paragraphs. Heck, if you're feeling creative, maybe ask for a sonnet about the history of the internet. It's all about tailoring that output to your specific needs.
That sonnet idea is definitely going on my list. But first, let's finish breaking down CRFT. The T is for tone, and I have a feeling this is another game changer.
You got it. Tone lets you control the style and mood of ChatGPT's response. You can ask for something formal, conversational, funny. You can even ask for something a 5-year-old would understand. It's all about matching the output with your audience and your purpose.
So a prompt might say something like, explain this concept in a way that's easy to understand, or write marketing copy that's persuasive and grabs people's attention.
You got it.
Yeah.
By defining the tone, you're giving ChatGPT the clues it needs to create content that truly fits what you need. And this is another area where the ideas in this ChatGPT prompts guide align with what Anil Nathu talks about on the 1 Hour Guide. It's all about using these tools to achieve those specific business objectives.
This CREACT framework is super helpful. But the guide doesn't just stop there, does it? It also gives some extra tips for getting even more out of ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. And these tips are all about getting even better, going beyond the basics to become a real prompt engineering pro.
Okay, I'm ready to level up. Tell me more about these bonus tips.
Well, one of the big ones is just to experiment, Don't be afraid to play around with different wording or try different approaches. If your first attempt doesn't give you what you're looking for, try rewording your prompt or adding more context.
So it's like finding that perfect combination, those magic words that get the best possible response from ChatGPT.
Right. It's kind of like searching on Google. Sometimes you got to tweak those search terms to find exactly what you're looking for. And the same goes for ChatGPT.
The guide also talks about giving ChatGPT examples to guide it. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, so examples are powerful because they show ChatGPT exactly what you want. If you need a specific style, format, or tone, giving an example can make all the difference. Think of it like giving a designer a mood board for a project. You're giving ChatGPT a visual reference to work with.
That's a great analogy. I could see how that would be helpful. What about constraints? The guide mentioned those too.
Ah, yes. Constraints are like setting boundaries for ChatGPT's response. You can set word limits, scope, or even say, don't talk about this specific topic. It's like giving ChatGPT some guidelines to work within.
Okay, so we've got experimenting, examples, and constraints. What else does the guide recommend?
Another big one is leveraging context. Giving ChatGPT some background information or details can really help it understand the subtleties of what you're asking for, and then you'll get a more informed response.
It's like giving ChatGPT a little backstory, right? So instead of saying, write a marketing plan, we could give it some info about our target audience, our competitors, and like our overall business goals.
Exactly. Context helps ChatGPT understand the bigger picture and give you those meaningful responses. It's about giving it all the information it needs to really grasp what you're trying to do.
These tips are so helpful. I feel way more confident about creating effective prompts now. But I gotta ask, from an expert perspective, what would you say is the most important takeaway for someone who's totally new to ChatGPT?
I think the most important thing is to remember that prompt engineering is a skill. The more you use ChatGPT, the better you'll become at crafting those killer prompts.
It's kind of like learning any new language. The more you immerse yourself in it, the more fluent you get. And the more you experiment, the more you uncover all its potential.
You nailed it. Don't be scared to play around, try new things, and keep refining your prompts. And of course, the ChatGPT prompts, a comprehensive guide, is an awesome resource for taking your prompting to the next level.
And for those of you who are interested in applying all of this to the business world, I highly recommend checking out the 1 Hour Guide by Anil Nathu. It's full of practical tips and real-world examples.
Welcome back to the 1 Hour Guide by Anil Nathu.
So we've been talking a lot about these practical techniques for ChatGPT, but I think it's helpful to, step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. Why are prompts so important in the first place? What's happening inside ChatGPT that makes all of this work?
That's a really great question, and it gets to the heart of how ChatGPT is different from traditional software. It's not just a bunch of rules programmed by humans. It's a system that's actually learned from data.
Right, we touched on this earlier. It's been trained on a massive, massive amount of text data, right?
Exactly. Think billions and billions of words, like everything, books, articles, code, even online conversations. ChatGPT has absorbed all of that stuff. And in doing so, it's developed this incredible understanding of, all the little nuances of human language.
Okay, but how does that actually translate into writing poems or like answering questions? Is ChatGPT actually thinking like a human being?
That's where things get a little bit philosophical. Even the experts are still debating this. ChatGPT doesn't have consciousness or emotions the way humans do. It's more about recognizing those patterns in language and using them to predict what comes next.
So it's like a supercharged prediction machine. It's taking all of that data it was trained on and using it to figure out like the most likely sequence of words that fit our prompt.
You got it. And that's why making those clear, specific prompts is so important. We're basically giving ChatGPT all those puzzle pieces. And the better those pieces fit together, the more awesome that final picture is going to be.
I love that analogy. It's like we're not just asking questions, we're setting the stage for the kind of answers that we want to get.
Exactly. And this is another area where that AI coach guide makes a really interesting connection to the business world. They talk about how, just like with AI, good communication is essential for success in any field. Doesn't matter if you're managing a team, pitching an idea, or negotiating a deal, being able to clearly and persuasively explain your thoughts can make all the difference.
That's such a good point. It's like those communication skills we're always told are so important in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
Now they're essential for communicating with AI too.
Absolutely. And this is something that Anil Nathu talks about a lot on the 1 Hour Guide, too. As AI becomes more and more part of our lives, those who can talk to these systems effectively will definitely have an advantage. It's not just about understanding human language anymore. It's also about understanding the language of AI.
So let's say we've got this whole writing clear and specific prompts thing down.
Yeah.
What can ChatGPT actually do for us?
Well, the possibilities are pretty amazing, and they're always growing. But let's start with some of the more common and practical uses.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people hear about ChatGPT and they're curious, but they might not be sure how it could be useful in their own day-to-day lives.
One of the most popular uses is for just getting information. Instead of going through pages and pages of search results, you can just ask ChatGPT a direct question and get a clear, relevant answer.
So it's like having your own personal research assistant.
Exactly. It can summarize articles, explain those really complex ideas, even translate languages. And because it's been trained on such a huge amount of data, it often knows things that you wouldn't easily find through regular search engines.
That's amazing. What about creative stuff? Can ChatGPT help with things like, writing or creating content?
Definitely. It can write stories, poems, scripts, even marketing materials. And because it can learn and adapt to different styles, you can really make sure its output matches what you need.
So I could ask ChatGPT to write a short story like Ernest Hemingway or a poem like Maya Angelou.
You got it. And it's not just about copying other people's styles either. You can use ChatGPT to help you come up with new and unique ideas. It's like having a brainstorming buddy who's always down to think outside the box.
This is all sounding super useful, but I think it's important to be realistic. ChatGPT isn't perfect, right? There are limits to what it can do.
You're totally right. It's important to remember that ChatGPT is still being developed. It can definitely make mistakes. It's not meant to replace human judgment or critical thinking.
So we should use it, but also be a little skeptical.
Exactly. And it's always a good idea to double check anything ChatGPT gives you, especially if you're using it for important decisions.
That's a great point. It reminds me of something else Anil Nathu talks about on the 1 Hour Guide, the importance of understanding limitations of new technologies. Just because something is new and exciting doesn't mean it's a magical solution to all of our problems.
Absolutely. It's all about being realistic about what these tools can and cannot do and using them responsibly and ethically. And as AI gets more advanced, it's going to be even more important to talk about its potential impact on society.
This has been such a fascinating conversation. I feel like I've learned so much about ChatGPT and how it all works.
Me too. It's incredible to see how much this technology has changed in such a short time, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
I'm with you there. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the world of ChatGPT prompts. Welcome back to the One Hour Guide by Anil Nathu. It's kind of crazy to think that just a few years ago, most people had never even heard of ChatGPT, and now it's like everywhere.
Yeah, it's become a huge thing, and it's not just hype either. There's real power behind it.
Exactly. And as we've been talking about, the key to really using ChatGPT is understanding how to talk to it effectively, mastering that whole prompt engineering thing.
Right. And the more you learn about prompts, the more you realize how much there is to it. There are so many different kinds, each one designed to get a specific response from ChatGPT.
Okay, so let's break those down a bit, because I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They kind of get the basics of ChatGPT, but they're not sure how to actually use it, in real life.
Sure. One of the most common types is what we call an informational prompt. These are basically designed to get specific information or explanations from ChatGPT.
So, like, if I wanted to learn about the history of the French Revolution, I might ask something like, summarize the key events and figures of the French Revolution.
Exactly. Or if you were curious about some scientific concept, you could say, explain the theory of gravity in a way that a 10-year-old could understand.
Okay, and what about creative prompts? We were talking earlier about how ChatGPT can generate different kinds of text. How do we tap into that?
Creative prompts are where you can get really imaginative. You could ask ChatGPT to write a story about a time traveler or compose a song about nature.
Or even like create a marketing campaign for a new product.
Precisely. And the cool thing about creative prompts is there's no right or wrong answer. It's all about exploring and trying new things.
Okay, so we've got informational and creative. What other kinds of prompts are there?
Another useful type is what we call an instructional prompt. These are meant to get step-by-step instructions or guidance from ChatGPT.
So if I wanted to learn how to bake a cake, I could say, give me a detailed recipe for a chocolate cake, including all the ingredients and instructions.
Yep. Or you could ask, explain how to change a tire, or walk me through how to meditate for beginners.
I can see how these instructional prompts would be great for learning new things like coding or playing an instrument.
Absolutely. And the key with instructional prompts is to be really specific. The more detail you give, the better ChatGPT can guide you.
Okay, informational, creative, instructional. What about when we're facing a problem, a real challenge? Can ChatGPT help us find solutions?
For sure. That's where problem-solving prompts come in. These are all about presenting a challenge to ChatGPT and asking for its insights or recommendations.
So let's say I was trying to come up with a new business idea. I could ask ChatGPT, brainstorm some innovative business ideas that could disrupt the tech industry.
That's a great example. Or you could say, help me figure out what's causing this problem, or give me some tips on how to improve my, I don't know, public speaking skills.
It's like having your own personal consultant.
One that has access to a ton of knowledge and data.
That's pretty amazing. What other types of prompts should we know about?
Another one that can be really helpful for making decisions is what we call a comparative prompt. This is when you get ChatGPT to analyze and compare different things.
So if I was deciding between two job offers, I could ask ChatGPT, compare the pros and cons of working at company A versus company B.
Exactly. Or you could say, analyze the strengths and weaknesses of these two marketing strategies. Or compare the environmental impact of driving versus flying.
I can see how those would be super helpful for weighing different options and making smart choices.
And the more specific your prompt is, the more insightful ChatGPT's analysis will be.
Okay, we talked about a lot of different types of prompts here. Anything else we should remember as we start trying out all of these approaches?
One of the biggest things is that there's no magic formula for prompt engineering. The best type of prompt depends on what you're trying to achieve.
So it's about being flexible, trying different things, and seeing what works best.
Right. And remember, the more you practice, the better you'll get at figuring out what makes a good prompt. And you'll start seeing some amazing results from ChatGPT.
This deep dive into ChatGPT prompts has been so insightful. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how to use this tool.
It's been great talking about this with you, and I'm sure that with a little practice, you'll be able to do some incredible things with ChatGPT.
And for those of you who want to learn more about applying all of this to business, definitely check out the 1 Hour Guide by Anil Nathu. It's full of great advice that can help you stay ahead of the game.
Definitely. Anil Nathu is great at breaking down complicated topics and making them practical, and the 1 Hour Guide is a perfect example of that.
Thank you for joining us today. Visit the 1 Hour Guide website for more business insights by Anil Nathu. See you next time.